So I've been collecting model trains for the past 2 years. Originally, I was planning on having just one model to use as a reference for my Minecraft builds, but I ended up buying a lot more since then. At first, I really had no idea where to buy model trains, so I had to figure it out over time, and I would like to share with you my experience. We will go over things like what is a model train, what brands, the different types, where do I buy the model trains, how much they cost, and some general advice. Warning, model trains are very expensive. Now, what is a model train? A model train is a miniature scaled replica of a real-life train, part of model railroading. They are different from toy trains because they put an emphasis on realism and detail. There are several different scales, the most popular being HO scale 1 to 87, followed by N scale half the size of HO, and there's also O scale, which is where the term HO comes from, half of O. There's also double O for British trains, along with a few other scales like Z and G. Personally, I think HO scale is the best scale because it has a good mixture of detailing and pricing. It's not too big and not too small, and since it's the most popular, it has a really wide product range. Although N scale may be better if space is an issue, or if you're into those really long Japanese trains. One thing to keep in mind is not every train will have a model of it ready-made off the shelf that you can just go buy, even if it's a major railroad. I'm from New York City. We have the Long Island Railroad, Metro North, and the subway. I would love to have a modern model train like an M8 or an R160, but it's practically non-existent except for some old vintage trains, or it is owned by a museum. You would have to custom build it from a kit, and if it does exist, there is a limited quantity. You see, model trains are made in batches. They take 1 or more years from pre-ordering to production, so there is a limited amount in each run based on how many trains the manufacturer orders from the factory. So if you miss one run of it, you would have to wait a while to order it again because they are not constantly producing them. Brands. Brands vary on their level of detail and build quality. Some brands have separate tiers for the level of detail. Scale Trains has museum quality, rivet counter operator, Athearn has Genesis and Roundhouse, Atlas has Masterline and Trainman, Walthers has Proto and Mainline, Bachmann has Spectrum and regular Bachmann? So be aware, not all rolling stock, even among the same brand, are gonna be equal. Some brands don't do this, like Rapido Trains, Kato, Exact Rail, Intermountain. So which brand should you buy from? My favorite brands are Scale Trains and Athearn because they are often the most detailed and realistic. However, you will find that you cannot just rely on one brand alone. Each brand specializes in certain areas, so you will have to mix and match depending on which rolling stock you want. Oftentimes, there are multiple variations of the same thing. They may look similar, but they will have different logos, details, or are from separate eras. So it just depends on what you want, what you can afford, and what's actually in stock. Where do I buy model trains? I buy all of my model trains online. I think it's the best way because it's easy to search, and you can also compare prices between retailers. Just be aware of some dodgy websites out there. If something is too good to be true where it's not in stock anywhere else and at a cheap price, chances are it doesn't actually exist and they are drop shipping it. I do have a list of legit online model train stores that I post on Reddit. I will put the link in the description if you guys want to check it out. Just like manufacturers, you cannot rely on just one store for everything, but I do have some recommended stores that I've bought from: Tony's Trains, Lombard Hobby, Model Train Stuff, Train World, Yankee Dabbler, White Rose Hobbies, Midwest Model Railroad, Train Life. These stores have a good wide selection. Train World and Model Train Stuff are the biggest, but they do include sales tax. Train Life is the only retailer to sell Exact Rail, and to pre-order on Lombard Hobby you have to fill out a form, but the system works pretty well in my experience. I've also listed some other model train stores I've ordered from: Charles Rowe and Spring Creek Model Train successfully, although I wish they had a larger range. You can also buy directly from the manufacturer, which I listed here. Usually they have an inflated MSRP, so it's cheaper to buy from a retailer, with the exception of Scale Trains, which offers also free shipping for orders over $100. If you can't find an item in stock, you can also check out eBay.com. In my experience, I have no problems. My first rolling stock was actually from eBay. It is the only place online to get the twin stack well cars, which are out of production. Usually Amazon.com is the go-to place to buy stuff online, but it's really not the case for model trains because prices will be higher and their range is quite limited. I would only use it if they have a good price for some Kato Unitrack sets. By the way, when you're shopping, you might notice that they're duplicates of the same thing. This is usually because they have different road numbers, the car's ID number. If you are assembling a unit train with the same type of car, you do not want to have a car with the same exact number again and again. Also, there might be some cars that don't show the wheels, Intermountain, and I am told that it is because they don't have the artwork ready and the wheels are included, but I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me because there's another one with wheels in it. How much do model trains cost? Let me say this again, model trains are expensive. My first model train 2 years ago, the Scale Trains Rivet Counter Gevo, cost $160, and this is a DC silent model. DCC sound models cost $100 extra. A quick lesson, DC are analog controlled, so you can only move in one one direction at a time per track, while DCC are digitally controlled so you can control each locomotive individually. Also, its lighting and sound. I save a lot of money just by sticking with DC Silent. Many people will recommend DCC, but honestly for me it's not necessary, and the trains themselves do make noises naturally from their motor and the track. Scale Train's budget tier, which is operator in DC, would cost around $100, and operator with DCC would cost $200. For after locomotives like an SD70 ACE, they are currently $220. They have went up since the supply chain issue and inflation though. For rolling stock, they will vary depending on how big they are, the detail, and the brand, and they could range from $20 to $100. A Walthers mainline boxcar hopper can be around $25, while Scale Train's rivet counter hopper would be around $45. Intermodal well cars, they cost around $100, but they have 5 or 3 unit cars, while containers can cost $10 or $15. But you also can't run trains without track. I mainly use Kato Unitrack. I think they're the best for pre-built track and they look pretty great. I started off with the HM1 starter set and that was $150, and the HV2 passing siding which cost $75. My first rolling stock, the eBay freight car lot, I got for $80 for 6 rail cars. So if you add all that up, $150 for the starter set, $75 for the siding, $80 for the rolling stock, $160 for the locomotive. That costs $465 for a basic train and layout. Of course, you can get some cheaper models. There are some basic starter sets from Walthers and Blockman which bundle up everything in one package for like $200, but they're not going to be the most detailed or realistic unless it's like the Excel Express which costs $400. So yes, model trains are costly, but if you can't afford that, I would recommend just building them in Minecraft, which is what I've been doing for years for free. I did not grow up with model trains. I only had those Tommy toy trains, so I am still new to the hobby and there's still a lot of things to explore, and that's why I make these unboxing videos so people can vicariously experience what's it like to have model trains, from unboxing the package to looking around at the model and then running the trains. But if you can't afford them, they are really cool to have if you like trains. And if you do own model trains, I would like to hear what is your favorite online model train store, or if you have any tips for the newcomers, and you can leave that in the comment section down below. Also let me know how this video is like. It's different from my typical videos, so I would appreciate some feedback. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you did not, hit the dislike button. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.